We are now less than 4 weeks away from Pokemon Day 2026, and many of us expect that this is when we will finally be getting news on Pokemon Champions. Today, I'm joined by my friend Jay Jingles as we discuss everything we currently know about this game and we give our thoughts on how we think everything will play out in the future. Ladies and gentlemen, I am joined by Jay Jingles. Jay, do you want to introduce yourself to everyone?
Sure. What's up, Scott? It's my name is Jay Jingles, and I do mostly draft league content for the most part. And me and Scott have just been talking. I don't know. We've been talking about champions just back and forth for quite a while now. Like, I think we talked for like 3 hours one night.
Yes, yeah, we did. there's a I think there's a lot to be excited for both of us, me as a VGC player and obviously you as a draft league player. But I guess let's just quickly jump into everything we kind of know so far about champions. Obviously, at the time of recording this, we are hopefully less than a month away from potentially playing the game, or at the very least, having a release date for the game. Yeah, we'll just quickly go through the stuff here. So basically, we know Pokemon Champions is going to be the new home for competitive Pokemon by the looks of it moving forward. It will be cross-platform, which is really cool. It will be on Switch, Switch 2, and mobile devices, which is really fun. The 2026 World Championships will also be played on Pokemon Champions, which is very, very cool. It means, what, roughly 8 months from now, I think Worlds will be, and it will be on Champions. Actually, might even be 7 months too, which is kind of crazy now that we're
It's very
approaching.
weird.
Yeah, it's actually going to be February for me very shortly. So very, very cool. We can see a bunch of different things here, right? You know, there are a bunch of Pokemon here that we can recruit. Pokemon recruitment will be done via VP. There are trial recruitments as well, which should be free for 7 days. Permanent recruitment, we can see here with the Gardevoir, it is 1,000 VP, but we can get into all of that later. Training Pokemon looks like it will be easier than ever thanks to VP. So far, there are 3 different battle modes here. As we can see, it looks like we have ranked battles. We also have casual battles and, yeah, private battles. Private battles obviously going to be really, really big for Jay here, as that is a very, very likely how we're going to be playing at Draft League battles, which will be very, very cool going forward. Then, yeah, they mentioned a bit more about the victory points here. Mega Evolution will be in the game, which is awesome. We also have the Omni Ring here, which, as we can see, that is a Z-Move symbol right there. So eventually Z-Moves will be coming to the game, assumingly Dynamax as well. And then, yeah, we also see that Mega Dragonite here is on the way. So that's basically just the quick overview here of the Pokemon website, essentially, with everything. Obviously, there are some, a lot more things that we can talk about here. We've also got Pokeos. The guys over there have got a bunch of information on the website, a bunch of screenshots, all the trailers and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I guess, is there anything you quickly wanted to say about Pokemon Champions before we jump into some of our topics here?
Well, other than just the fact that, like, I think everybody's just itching. Everybody's like really chomping at the bit just to get anything from this company, man. Like, it's like I was watching the trailers the other day, and there was the first one was 11 months ago.
Well,
11
yeah,
months ago.
Pokemon Day 2025. Crazy when you think
Like,
about it.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, and they're just keeping us in the dark. So we can only rely on like little podcasts and speculations like these and stuff like that, and talk about what we know for sure and stuff that we think. And so, but these are fun conversations. But I think we're pretty close.
Yeah, well, and look, I guess that's the first thing we can kind of touch on here, right? Is the release day, right? As we can see here at the top of the screen, it says Pokemon Champions is coming in 2026. Now, I think as I mentioned there in the intro, right, is I think a lot of us are kind of hoping for like a Pokemon Day kind of shadow drop. Personally, I'm not in that boat as a content creator. As much as I want the game as soon as possible, I would like it if they gave me like 2 to 4 weeks notice just so I could work some things out, work wise, to potentially get some time off for it. But I guess, yeah, like, what are your thoughts on like when you think this game's going to come out? I guess, what are you hoping for? And yeah.
Well, we've heard so many dates thrown around. I think you've thrown a few at me as well. There was like that leak back in last May or whatever it was, or June.
Yeah.
I forget what it was. And that date's long
That's
gone
gone. Well,
now.
yeah, it was
But
last week. They were saying, I think 23rd of Jan was originally when they was kind of speculating it, but yeah.
yeah, and the way if anybody's done projects or managed projects or anything like that, just in any industry ever, they get delayed all the
Yeah.
time. Dates are just
Yeah.
arbitrary at this point. It's
Exactly.
something to aim for, but as for the actual release date, I think you're probably right on the money when you're like, as much as we would love a shadow drop on Pokemon Day, it's like poetic. The 30th anniversary, we get this like crazy revolutionary game, but it's just they it wouldn't be smart for them to just drop it, right?
I
Because like
the thing
I don't
to
know. I think they gotta let us know a couple of weeks so they can really do like their next sort of promotions, I guess.
Yeah, and look, there's a couple things I do want to touch on with that, right? So obviously the first big one is Pokopia. I think that's what is it, Pokopia, Poketopia. The new
Mhm.
game that's coming out. I am personally interested in it. Like
March.
I will play that game on launch. It comes out a week after Pokemon Day, so it feels super weird that they could potentially drop Champions and then 7 days later drop Pokopia. Because as much as I
Yeah.
personally want to play Pokopia, I'm not picking it up. But if it comes out 7 days after
No.
Champions, like I'm going to be playing Pokemon Champions for the next 3 to 6 months, like hardcore, right? I'm not going to have any time for any other games. So if that was to happen, I'm probably not going to be playing Procopia, right? Which is kind of sad because I've spoken to my partner about it. We're both excited to play it together. I know that, that game does have some co-op. Hopefully it is, couch co-op and we can play together, but that's a story for a different day. But yeah, because of Procopia, obviously that is one of the reasons why I am kind of like a bit iffy on that February 28th or 27th, technically, I guess, depending where you are in the
Yeah.
world. And then I guess to follow that up as well, right? Obviously, we have Regulation F 2.0 finishing up in April. We know that March 31st, or technically like the morning of April 1st, will be the last time we play it. And like it's one of those things where, like, typically speaking, we get a new format a month in advance. So we should know on March 1st what we're going to be playing on April 1st, right? That's how it's always
Yeah.
been. So are we going to know again? Like, obviously, if we get the release date, right? Like, if they say, hey, Pokemon Champions is dropping on, I think, I forget the exact date it lines up to be, but I think it would be like March 19th would be, I think that's like exactly 2 weeks after Pokopia. That would be like a Thursday or a Friday, depending where you are in the world. I think for you, it would be a Thursday, me a Friday. But then that would also give us roughly 3 weeks before the first regional in April. It's like, is that enough time for us to be like, hey, April 1st, we are moving to Champions. If you're playing that weekend, which I think is again like the 5th and 6th of April or something like that, it's like, hey, you guys are going to be the first regional. You've got basically 3 weeks to prep. Um, is that going to be enough time to, I guess, get into it, right? Like, is that going to be enough time to play the game, get all the VP you need, build a team, and be competitively ready, right? That's one of the scary things. And maybe if, like, if home is compatible day one, which is again another topic for later in the video, maybe it's possible. But I feel like if you're going to have to start from scratch, it might be a bit of a tall task, I guess, to be ready to play on, I guess, April 5th.
Well, that's really what it comes down to. I think that's where the doubt comes in, is where how does the physical game or the game that Pokemon Champions that we're talking about, how does that sync up with the competitive format? And the timing does seem to raise some questions. Because like obviously we're talking about possible release dates of February 27th. We're talking about maybe a month later, give them a chance to announce it, and then hey, it comes out later, 2 weeks after Pokopia, maybe. Maybe the timing of the next regulation date, they announce it maybe on Pokemon Day that the next regulation is going to be on Champions. But then how does that work with in-person tournaments and stuff like that? And you're right when you say like people need a minute to like at least download the game, at least kind of get some stuff, transfer stuff. They need some time. Even like and people ignore this is the functionality of the game. Like I saw something small like on your team preview. You normally have to click the Pokemon, you have to go into Pokemon, go to status and sort around. There's now an X button just on the Pokemon's name that just shows status.
Mm.
So like little things like so navigating the actual platform is going to be something you don't want to just throw this at people, right? So I it is very iffy when we start talking about the competitive live scene and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, and I think again, this is where it comes back to like Pokemon Day makes a lot of sense, right? Because if the game comes out on Pokemon Day, the first regional's 5 weeks later, right? And we already know this game
Yeah.
is free to start, so it's like, okay, 5 weeks seems reasonable to prepare for a tournament, right?
Yeah.
2 to 3 weeks kind of doesn't, because like not only again, like we don't know how long it's going to take to really be in a position where you can actively like play this game like properly, right? We don't know how much grinding there's going to be. We don't know if there's going to be some PvE stuff that you need to do before you can head online. And again, like, for someone like me who plans on playing this game, basically full time for hopefully the first month it's out, I wouldn't be too stressed about 3 weeks, right? But I also understand that there are a lot of people out there who have jobs, they work full time, they probably only get to play 2 hours a night, right? Is 2 hours a night for 2 weeks really enough to do everything you need to do in game and then play the game, learn the format, build a team? It's like that's where I do get a little, I guess, worried about it. And again, I think this is why I am kind of leaning towards that shadow drop. Because like again, like if we don't have it come April 1st, when are we going to have it? Are we going to have a 2 month, intermediate format? Are they going to say, hey, sorry, game got delayed, regulation F is 1 month longer? Like, I'm not too sure.
Could you imagine? I
Another
don't know,
month of
man.
reg F.
Like it's if they ended up, you're right with the shadow drop thing, right? I don't like shadow drops with companies and stuff like that, especially when they've left us in the dark for so long. But they need this game out ASAP. Like this game needs we're talking worlds, dude. Like
Yeah.
the world championships are going to be played on this game, and it's not even out yet in the
Hmm.
same calendar year. And they're talking Gen
And
10 and stuff like that, which we'll get into
so
later. But like,
to add to that as well, actually, I was talking to a friend of mine somewhat recently about this, but this is also the would only be, I think, the second time in the last like 20 years that a game was announced and not released in the same like 12-month cycle. So
oh,
that's again why, like, if we don't have a Pokemon Day, then I think it's like I forget exactly what the other one was. I know it was like Diamond and Pearl was like announced and then it was released over 12 months later. Or maybe it was Platinum. And I want to say there was one other game in between that was really recently. It might have actually just been, yeah, no, it was ZA. It was literally ZA because ZA was announced 2024 and we got it end of 2025. Um,
yeah, that one took a while
so
too.
yeah, so it kind of does link up with that, I guess, but it's very rare they announce a game and it's not released within 24 months. Sorry, 12 months. So because of that, I again, like, I'm personally leaning towards it being a Pokemon Day release. I just hope it isn't.
Yeah, for the sake of your schedule, yeah, you don't because you want to cover the crap out of this game.
Yeah.
I'm kind of indifferent. I think it all comes down to there's so many factors that determine whether or not this is a good thing for competitive or not. Like home compatibility is going to be big. If we don't have that day one, the grind is real. Like we're talking virtual currency, guys. And like if we don't have a way to import existing Pokemon, like people don't have time to grind, right? Like in crashing and stuff like that
Yeah.
day one because there's going to be millions of people on the same
Hmm.
we'll get into this. I'm kind of putting the cart before the horse here. We'll get into those topics, I'm sure, but like yeah, this is wild.
Now I just want to have a quick, brief discussion, I guess, here about the cross-platform battle. So, as mentioned at the start here, we do know that this game will be on the Nintendo Switch systems, both the Switch 1, Switch 2, and it will also be on mobile devices, so iOS and Android. Personally, I think this is massive, right? Obviously, we don't know yet if you'll be able to play like in-person events, like regionals, ICs, and all that on a mobile device yet. Um, I'm kind of leaning towards I hope we don't because I feel like you should not be able to play like Pokemon Go, for example, doesn't play on their own mobile devices, right? They are provided by TPCI, and because of that, I think it starts getting really messy. But I do think having mobile in general is a major, major, major step forward, especially because we do know this game is free to start, right? So the amount of people who have not played competitive Pokemon in the past because of the accessibility, I think this is going to be huge just for getting new people in the door. But yeah, I guess, like, what are your thoughts on, I guess, playing on your phone?
Well, everyone's got one, right?
Exactly.
So there's no paywall behind getting in Canada like an $800 Switch 2,
Hmm.
right? Um, I guess Switch 1 you can go buy one for cheaper as well, but the one of the I was in sales for a while, and one of the big things in sales was get the product in the person's hand,
Hmm.
right? So obviously they try it like demos and samples. We've all been to Costco and you have like, "Dude,
Hmm.
try my free sample." They're getting the product in your hand, right? So and they did this a bit with Pokemon Go, right? Pokemon Go was let's expose people to the game for free. You can play for free, you get used to catching Pokemon, you get familiar with the Pokemon, and like I bet that this was planned for years ago. And because you had Pokemon Let's Go, same
Hmm.
concept, right? With the catching, right? So Pokemon Go is a transition. So all of these little free-to-play mobile games that they've been doing are all transitionary things leading to this moment, which is why it's exciting for me because now everyone can play VGC.
Yeah.
Anyone can play it on the train. If you don't want to buy the game, you could just grind in game, use your Gardevoir, use your Hydreigon, your Garchomp, all that stuff there. But if you want to use an Ursaluna Blood Moon, you got to buy Gen 9. You got to buy Gen 10. So there's still a way to
Hmm.
make money. So I really like this platform for them.
Yeah. No, look, again, I think it's massive, right? Because a big thing for me is always going to be accessibility, right? And, I made a couple of videos about this in the past, especially when Regulation D in particular was announced. I don't know if you played much Reg D, but the issue with the format at the time was they just randomly did this home update and this home update brought with it, I'm pretty sure it was like Incin and Rilla, which are like whatever,
Landorus.
but it was
Yeah.
the genies, right? All of a sudden, the genies are available, the Urshifus are available. So it became like, oh, if you want to play VGC 6 months after Scarlet and Violet is dropped, you need to own Pokemon Sword and Shield. You also need to own the DLC. You need to
Yep.
have completed all of them. And now it's like you can actually play the DLC. And so, sorry, you can play VGC. And then because of that, all of a sudden it was like, okay, 6 months into Scarlet and Violet, you have to have 2 games and a DLC just to play the brand new game. Like, and I know there are a lot of people out there, like I had comments on my video saying like, oh, you can build teams without the Urshifus. Like, if you're a serious
It's
VGC
hard.
player, there has not been a single format Urshi has been illegal in where it has not been an absolute top tier threat. Like, if you don't at least have the option of playing Urshi through, you're at a massive disadvantage, right? And so, again, we've seen with VP and the fact that you can, rent Pokemon or, purchase licenses that potentially that isn't necessarily going to be needed going forward. But obviously having the option there, like, someone like me who already has an Urshifu, right? I could hopefully just trade that in from Pokemon Home. But it doesn't, I guess, like, just cap people who like don't have the older games, right? If someone's getting into Pokemon in Generation 10, they don't own Gen 9, they don't own Gen 8, they don't have a way to, get an Urshifu. It's not the end of the world, right? It's like, oh, I can pay, potentially 1,000 VP and I now have an Urshifu.
Once it's available too, right? Because they said they're going to be releasing these Pokemon gradually.
Yes.
So like home, we can import stuff whenever we
Yeah.
want from home, right? You and I've been
Hmm.
playing for years, but
Well,
someone just
I've got
getting in,
everything.
they won't be able to get any of that stuff, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, so it
And
makes sense, yeah.
yeah, and I guess look, that does lead into another topic, right? Which is the Dexit, and I guess we can probably touch on that a little later in the video. But the Dexes are definitely going to be a big thing, to touch on. But I guess, yeah, is there anything else like mobile wise you wanted to touch on here, or?
No, I think it's great though. Like I do think it's a really good thing because like I get to play on the train. I don't have to bring my Switch with me.
Hmm.
Like one of the problems, because again with draft, I'll always kind of at least reference it. One of the problems in draft with playing Pokemon Showdown leagues, they're not as visually appealing. You feel like you're playing a
Oh yeah,
simulator. It's almost
I'm
like
with you.
and it is a simulator. You're practicing the real game. It's like playing on a crappy baseball field. When you're a kid, you're like, like we're playing, but are we
Yeah,
really?
it's
Um,
it look, it is very different, right? Like, and again, this can be its own topic on its own, but I still think Pokemon Showdown will have its place, even once Champions is here,
for
because
sure.
at the end of the day, I can, I'm a ladder warrior. Anyone who knows me knows I grind best of ones all day at work, right? I will sit down and play 100 BO1s while I'm responding to emails, but like, because of that, you'll never be able to match the pace of Pokemon Showdown where I can get a game in every minute, right? But
Yeah.
as you said, just having it on the mobile phone, right? Like being able to play on the train, like, I personally commute 40 minutes each way to work every day. So if that's 40 minutes of just like playing Pokemon, champions, for me, that's fantastic.
Yeah, lots of VP.
Hmm.
You gotta grind that VP. Got any more of that VP?
So I think this is a good transition here as well into just victory points in general, right? So we do know that victory points will be gained through ranked battles and other places in Pokemon Champions. It says you will need VP to recruit and train Pokemon. VP cannot be directly purchased, so keep battling and gaining VP to power up your team even more. So a few things to unpack here. Obviously, the first one is a VP will be earned through ranked battles. I think this is absolutely incredible. Obviously, we still don't know how much. I've discussed this in the past, and again, we'll kind of get into it shortly when it comes to the training of it. But I believe the Gardevoir that was shown in the trailer, it was roughly like, I think it was like 800 and something VP to train that Gardevoir, right? And again, we get a bit of a breakdown that we can kind of discuss later. But if it's let's just round it and say it costs you on average 1,000 VP to train a Pokemon. I think if you're getting somewhere between 500 to 1,000 points for a win, and then like potentially say 1 to 200 points for a loss, if you build a team, play 20 games with it, you're probably in a position where you can build another team, which would be really cool. But in saying that, again, this is purely speculation. You might win a game and get 100 VP, and then it's like, damn, I need 10 wins just to, EV train one Pokemon.
Yeah, like and that's for the free to play guys, right? I don't think this will be an issue for the majority of people. So I think everyone can
Yes.
kind of exhale for a second. Once there's home compatibility, you're not gonna have to worry about VP. I don't think at all, unless it costs VP to play in tournaments, or you might have to spend it to actually. There might be a cost to play. Say for example, I don't know what's a popular tournament like Mouse Tour or something like that.
Yeah.
They're just like, hey, they want to host a tournament on here. It costs 100 VP to join or something like that, or whatever it is, right? But like one of the first things I thought of with when you were talking about how much VP you might get from a win. Are you a golf guy?
No, but I know a little bit.
So There was a game that came out, the new golf game, not the EA one, but the other one. I can't. It's escaping me right
PGA
now. But
Tour or something?
yeah, I would play my buddies, and we would finish the round. And 18 holes takes, I don't know, depending on how quick you are, it might take half an hour, right?
Mhm.
Half an hour, 45 minutes, whatever it is, if you take your time. But after the round, we would get like $50 or in-game currency or something, right? 54. No, yeah, it was 54. And we'd always laugh because we're like, thanks for my $54 because a club costs like $800. And I'm like, to buy one club, there's 13 clubs in your bag, and you get $50 for so, but you also got like unlocks. So if you an OCO, you might get a bonus, like a one-time unlock of X amount of VP. Or
Mhm.
like if you 4-0 somebody, you might get
But
500, a one-time unlock.
yeah.
So little things like that. So you can unlock potentially quickly, but once you unlock that stuff, the grind gets real.
So that actually just kind of flags something with me as well, right? Like I don't know how much you actually played Legends EA ranked battles, but in like Legends EA ranked
Zero.
battles, right? You would earn a certain amount of points, yeah? So it was like, if you hit say like I think it was like for each KO you would get like 10 points, but then if you had 10 KOs, you would get like a bonus however many
Yeah.
points. And then, if you, say you used X amount of super effective attacks, you would get bonus points, and
Mhm.
there was all these
Style
little things that
points.
gave you bonus points. So that would actually be really interesting to see, like potentially, like oh, you won 4-0. Okay, here's a bonus 200 VP, right? So something like that, I do think would be really cool. I guess one other thing I did want to mention here as well is it does say VP cannot be directly purchased. And I actually did get a comment on my video yesterday talking about Pokemon Champions that kind of made me start thinking, right? So obviously it does say you cannot buy VP. So I am certain that means I cannot go into the game and say, "Hey, I want to buy 10,000 VP."
Yeah.
But
But
but I am
we know.
almost certain because this is going to be a free to play game. They need to monetize the game in some way. There is probably going to be a battle pass, and I am on record saying I want a battle pass. I know I cop shit for it all the time because people hate microtransactions, but I guarantee you there is going to probably be a $10, $11 monthly fee for a battle pass that is going to be in the game, right? And it will probably just by doing missions, gaining points, you will probably get free VP or like, free VP for completing missions. Yeah. And this is why I think it says you cannot directly purchase it because it's like, oh,
Yeah,
you can't
directly.
purchase VP, but you can purchase a battle pass, or maybe it's you purchase a premium battle pass. Maybe there'll be a free battle pass that everyone has access to every month, similar to, like games like Fortnite and whatnot. And it's like, hey, if you've got the free path, this is what you get here. It's like, oh, a couple extra VP and whatnot. But if you spend the big money, then it's like, oh, you hit level 10, here is 1,000 VP. Oh, you hit level 20, here's 2,000 VP. And that's like why I do think it's like you can't directly purchase it, but like I think there's going to be ways that money definitely helps you get VP.
Oh, for sure. Like the word directly, like I was laughing as you were saying it. I knew exactly what you're getting at, but it's giving me like if anybody's like a sports fan, Kawhi Leonard playing for the LA Clippers, you can't pay someone more than you're allowed to directly from the team. So you create this company to pay him an endorsement deal that it's not directly, but they can still do it. So I'm 100% on board with you. It's either going to be a battle pass or they will have
Yeah.
there are some games like mobile games like free to play games that have a earned currency and then they have a premium currency that you can buy. So
Mm-hmm.
they are correct in saying VP can't be directly purchased, but there might be PP for like premium points, right? Or
Yep.
you know what I mean?
Yep.
They'll get
And
their
then you
money.
and then you use that to buy VP. Yeah. So like and again, like I'm on the record, right? I've spoken about this openly. I love a microtransaction. I am fortunately, I've always been someone who like spends, I don't spend anything too crazy. But I played Dota 2 for 12 years. I spent money on the TI Battle Pass every year. Every year, right? So it's like I am someone who has spent money. Again, I don't think I go too crazy. I know there are people out there who are massive whales. I would not consider myself that, but if this is a game I personally love, which I think I will, I'm happy to throw $10 at them every month. I'm an adult with a full time job. I make money playing this game, thankfully. So it's reinvesting in it, if you know what I mean.
Well, what's that meme that's going around right now where you see that the guy's got his camera and all you hear off in the distance is, "Hey, who spent $250 on Pokemon Go?" I can see it now, man. But a lot of
Yeah,
people hate
dude.
microtransactions. As
Yes.
long as it doesn't give you a competitive advantage, I don't see anything wrong with it.
I could not agree with you more. I'm in the same boat. Like, I actually had an argument with my friend. Shout out Luke. He like we had a bit of an argument recently about this, where Luke used to play competitive Pokemon Unite, right? At least back when it first dropped, and he had this argument to me, right? And again, I remember seeing a Moist Critical video about this. This is how it kind of got brought up. But like on launch, you had those items, right? Now, I played Pokemon Champions, sorry, Unite on launch. Didn't play it much past that, but there was items in game, and it was like I forget if it was like 20 or 40 levels or whatever it was, but it was like you could level up these items, right? And it was like the difference between like level one and a maxed out one off memory wasn't too crazy. It was maybe like 50% better, maybe double, but it was like relatively easy to
Still,
upgrade them if you played the game. But it was one
yeah,
of those things where Moist Critical on day one pulled out the fucking credit card, he puts it down,
yeah,
bang, everything's maxed out. And to me, that's like a massive no-no, right? Especially in a competitive game. You know,
yeah.
as I mentioned, I come from Dota 2, right? This is a game that has always been free to play. There is absolutely nothing you can purchase in that game that will make you better than another player. Um, and you know, my friend Luke was arguing with me. He's like, "Oh, well, you know, like level one versus max level, it's just not a big difference. Like it's not important." I'm like, "No, but like
Until it is.
it's the principle of it, though, right? Because it's not like you know, if little Timmy say he boots up the game today, you know what I mean? And it's like, oh, his life orb does 1.2 times damage, but my life orb does 1.5 times damage. And it's like, oh, it's not that much. It's only 30%. And it's like, well, you know, life orb versus choice specs is pretty big in VGC. You know, there are recent Pokemon like Chiyu run specs over life orb, right? And it's because that's 0.2%, you know, it doesn't seem like much. But like really, you know, everyone should be just on a equal competitive playing field, I think, regardless of how much money you spend.
Well, like we're talking about splitting hairs and how it's not a problem for some people. Well, we play VGC. What's an EV bump? Oh, got to get that one extra point, right? You know,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't matter till it
Oh,
matters. You got to optimize your HP so you only lose 1 HP, less for a life orb drop. Hey, you
always have
got
a
to get
life orb
that
ending in 9.
multiple of 16. You got to get your leftovers optimization. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Your HP 252, oh, drop it to 244 and do your 4 and 4 in defenses because the 1 point. So, you know what I mean? So I feel like we talk out of both sides of our mouths sometimes. And I think again, just an advantage is an advantage is an advantage, guys. And you shouldn't be able to pay for it. And that's what turns a lot of people off from certain
Yes.
games. So I think it would be a big miss if they decided to go with that. And that's also why I don't think they will.
Quick side tangent, because you actually just brought up a great thing then. You said how you go 244 HP so you can split defenses. Not anymore. We do have the extra skill point for anyone who is not aware. So in the past, you know, as you can see here, 32, 2, and 32. In the past, we didn't have this. Pokemon were able to get 510 EVs, but you could only effectively use 508 of them. So because
Yeah.
of that, you would essentially have 2 EVs wasted. Not anymore. We actually do have 512 now. So you know, that is very, very
Oh.
interesting, and I'm sure there's actually going to be some plays where that makes a big difference because we can see here the Gardevoir actually has the equivalent of 12 EVs here into its Spadef with a maxed out speed and special attack. So really, really cool
Oh.
there. Um,
See, that changes it's funny. I'm
there's
actually
going to be
glad you
some
brought that up.
calcs
I didn't
now.
catch that.
Yeah,
That changes the game.
yes, that is there is going to be a lot of different things, man. But I do want to just carry on this conversation here when it comes to VP. So I do have some
Yeah.
screenshots here. I'm just gonna like pull up so we can like. Oh, I've zoomed in too far. Bear with me. Oh, where's my mouse gone? So quickly just want to mention here, right? So as we can see here, this trainer is looking at like obviously different Pokemon, right? And we can see here in the corner, the trainer does have 5,000 VP. And from what we can see, this is the only currency on the screen, which I guess is a good thing for now. We can also see
Yeah.
the trainer has 14 Pokemon in the box, and by the looks of it, they currently do not own a Sneasler. Now, if we just scroll through
That
these
actually
images
looks like
here,
you start this looks like a brand new account. You get
yes.
5,000 when you download it.
But in
That's
saying
what it looks
that,
like.
they have 14 Pokemon already in the box, and I actually do think we get to see them in another screenshot, so I can pull them up shortly. But as we
Mm.
can see here on the screen, it says you can go for a recruitment, right? So we have the trial period, which is 7 days, which is free. So again, this is really cool because if you say you know you're someone who's strapped for VP and you really want to try out Gardevoir, it's like, well, I have 7 days where I can test out Gardevoir and see if I like it or not. If I do like it, I can purchase it. If not, I'll ignore it, right? I'll save my VP. So that's really cool. And we do see here that Gardevoir does cost 1,000 VP. Now, obviously, one of the things to discuss here, I do think, is that we don't know if every Pokemon in the game is going to be 1,000 VP. I would
Mm.
probably argue they won't, but it also hopefully doesn't matter to start with because again, Gardevoir is a fully evolved Pokemon. It's a basic Pokemon, part of a regional dex. So I would say any Pokemon like equivalent to Gardevoir, which is basically everything on this screen behind it besides Pikachu, will probably be about 1,000 VP. I would not be surprised if NFEs like Pikachu are even cheaper, like maybe five, seven
Yeah.
hundred, something like that, or 750. And then I think from there is where you could probably start seeing things like the sub legendaries, right? The Urshis, Tornadus, um, Landorus, all those good guys, Urshifu, could potentially be something like 2,500, maybe even 5,000 if they were really stingy. And then, you
Yeah.
start getting to like restricted legends where again, that could be 5, 10K. Again, obviously purely speculation. I pray that
Yeah.
everything is just 1,000 VP because it makes things so much easier. We were discussing before, right? If say you get 1,000 VP for a win, I wouldn't want to have to win 10 matches just to get one restricted.
Yeah, like, I think you're right. It's going to come down to either classification, evolution level. It could be base stat total. But I do think we are going to get different prices. As much as it would be nice to have just a K across the board for each Pokemon, unfortunately, I do think it's going to be availability. I'm not sure if it'll be based on usage. That'd be kind of crazy.
Hmm.
Like if everybody's using Ursaluna, it might cost more, and it really comes down to like again speculation, right? Like, but
Hmm.
1,000 is for at least Gardevoir. That's all we know for sure.
Yeah. And look, one of the cool things as well, though, is we also get to see how much it actually costs to, I guess, train a Pokemon, which is
Yes.
really, really fun. As we can see here, the EV training itself is actually pretty cheap. If my math is correct, that is 130 VP to max out a Pokemon's EVs, which in the grand scheme of things, really cheap because, like, again, let's just say we start the game with 5k VP, which I honestly think it might be a little bit more. As long as there's Pokemon home compatibility and I don't have to purchase these Pokemon off rip, 5,000 VP is going to go a long way when it comes to EV training. Like, there are a lot of
Yeah.
Pokemon I'm just going to be able to EV train. Like, I actually just feel like you're going to be able to EV train everything without even having to worry about it.
Yeah, and I also noticed too, look how much it costs to max out a stat,
Hmm.
64.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
That's
so
it.
130 total for the whole Pokemon just for the EVs,
Yeah.
which
Well,
is
and
really
you
good.
look at the other things, like the
Yeah.
nature is 200, I think. The
Yeah, that
ability's 400, which is wild.
the ability is an interesting one because I believe Trace is a base ability on Gardevoir. I'm pretty sure its hidden ability is telepathy.
Okay.
So a hidden ability is going to be more. Maybe it's doubled. Maybe it's 200 more. I'm not too sure. Um, but that's definitely something to think about, right? Are they going to make us pay more for Trace? Potentially. We also see moves like Psychic or 100 VP. Again, interesting because Psychic is obviously a pretty strong move. It's certainly a very very good attack, right? But are we going to see moves like Overheat and Draco Meteor cost a little bit more? Are supportive
Yeah.
moves maybe going to be a little less? Like we're not too sure. Maybe a move like Protect will cost you 50 VP. Maybe Psychic will cost you 100 VP. We might even be able to get TMs in this game. It might be like, hey, buy the Psychic TM for 10,000 VP, and you never have to purchase it again. I'm not too sure.
Ooh.
Obviously, there's still a lot we don't know, but in saying that, we see here to train this Gardevoir here, max out its stats, change its nature, swap one of its moves, change its ability. 764 VP is honestly not too bad.
Is that only one stat though I see that they trained on this screen? Because I see
No,
two stats maxed.
yeah, so they maxed out the speed, maxed out the special attack. Um, so again,
Actually, wait, yeah,
obviously,
look, 64. It says
yeah,
64 VP for the one stat. It looks like they already had
yes,
stats in there.
yeah,
So it
potentially
actually
they,
costs close to 800. Well, I guess right now this is ability, one
yeah,
item, one move, an ability, one stat maxed, and
yeah,
the nature is 764. So full one move, everything, and then full stats looks like it's about eight,
yeah.
what, 820 or eight, whatever it is.
If you had to change all moves, you could potentially be going over 1,000. But again, we don't know
Oh
how
yeah,
things are
pretty
going to
crazy.
work, right? Potentially, because again, this is the Gardevoir, at least by the looks of it, that they got from the rental, right? So maybe
Yeah.
this Gardevoir came with like Psyshock, and they just wanted to put Cycling.
Mm.
Like, obviously, I'm not too sure, right? So again, a lot of speculation into this. This is something we'll have to, I guess, wait and see how it kind of plays out. But overall, I'm actually pretty happy with how cheap this is. I actually think that's it's pretty good, especially like again, if you get like 1,000 VP for a win, each win is like a whole Pokemon EV trained, which I think is pretty good.
Well, and also let's look at this as well. Who the majority of people playing this game isn't going to be the casual player. It's probably going to be you or I, right? So you're going to import one thing and the meta changes. Oh, well, I need to run an Adamant Urshifu this time instead of a Jolly one. You go
Hmm.
in, you change one ability, done. Or
Yeah.
one nature, you're done. So it's not even going to be, it's going to be minor adjustments to most Pokemon for you and I or the average VGC player. I don't think it's going to be a full like I don't think you'd get the bang for your buck to do it in this to fully get the Pokemon ready. Minor adjustments, EVs, things like that. Whatever's just gonna whatever you don't have in the game, you just go do it. Like an oh, I haven't found that TM yet in Gen 10, whatever it is, which we'll get into. Or I'm out of money in the game in Gen 9, so I don't have, I'll just go pay VP for it, right? In the game. But I don't think it's gonna be a full crazy cost. If anybody's worried about grinding, to make full teams, I think we'll be able to make the full teams and then whatever adjustments we could just do in this.
Yeah, look, I agree. I think as long as you're not someone who makes a team, plays 2 games, and then completely changes it, like you're probably going to be fine. And again, I do think this is where something like Pokemon Showdown still comes in massive, right?
Mm,
Because as long as like say you go and play 10, 15 games, get a feel for it. Okay, maybe you're right. Maybe I do actually need Jolly Urshifu in this format, you test things out, and again, because like another thing, we didn't even see items. I don't know if items are going to be purchasable. I'm assuming items
yeah.
would hopefully be a one-time purchase because like obviously in Pokemon we do have item clause typically. You can't use the same item more than once. So, maybe you just have one choice scarf, and on each team you have one choice scarf. But again, something we'll purely speculating on here, but um yeah, I don't know. Is there anything else I guess you wanted to touch on here when it comes to VP? Like I feel like we could talk all day about this and speculate on absolutely everything, but I feel like we've kind of covered
Literally.
everything we needed to for now.
Well, the last just items, like the I just wanted to touch on items just for a second.
Hmm.
We probably know with Pokemon Home compatibility, you can't transfer items in. So this is the only
Hmm.
thing you must buy in the game because you can't like if you're going from game
Well,
to home to this, like we can't get items unless we're talking about mega stones and stuff like that, which are
so that's another thing as well, though. What if items are like PVE stuff? Because again, like that's another whole thing about this game that like no one's really spoken about. And I actually had a comment on my video yesterday about this. But what if what if this game is going to have like a Battle Frontier type PVE? Like again, obviously purely speculation,
mm,
right? But what if it's like, oh hey, you want to get a choice scarf? You need to go and beat this trainer, and this trainer will give you a choice scarf, right? we
hey,
we never know. Maybe there'll be some like small challenges, right? Where it's like, and again, this is like I think when you talk about Pokemon champions, right? This is the time where they could bring back all of the best trainers from every single game we've ever played. I've seen
oh
people
my
spec.
goodness.
I've seen people speculate, like maybe you get to go play like the Kanto Cup or something, and you got to run through the 8 gym leaders or run through the Kanto Elite Four, and like again, I could see this being ways that potentially you get items and stuff like that, or you earn VP without having to play ranked battles.
Yeah, even Pokemon Stadium had a PvE,
Hmm.
right?
Well, and
So it makes sense.
And again, I think another reason why it makes a lot of sense as well is I think there needs to be other ways other than just ranked battles to earn VP. Because at the end of the day,
Yeah.
there are going to be a lot of people who want to play this game casually with their friends. And those people are going to need ways to earn VP without having to play ranked battles. Because from what we understand already, and I can kind of pull it up here, um, from
They're
what
gonna
we
get wrecked.
understand, ranked battles are the only way to earn VP. Like you see it down here, right? Playing ranked battles also lets you obtain VP after your matches depending on the outcome, right?
Mm,
But then if you like go over here to casual, does it specify specifically? Yeah, see, it doesn't mention anything about actually getting VP from casual battles. So if
yeah.
you're someone who is just a
Even that.
casual battler or a
Yeah.
a private battler, you need ways to earn VP. And again, that's where I think like PVE comes into it, and I think that could be a way potentially how you get these items. But again, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you're right, and it is just oh hey, a choice scarf is going to cost you 5,000 VP.
Yeah, there's got to be for the casual fan because like the whole idea of getting the product into the layman's hand or the average person's hand is they're not gonna like imagine you're like, hey guys, I'm gonna try VGC for the first time. I'm gonna use the best Pokemon on this list. I'm gonna go Hydreigon, Gardevoir, Breloom, Charizard, Pikachu. Cool, they're my favorite. I only need five, right? And you run into a Smuckle team. You're gonna quit. You're gonna quit the game. You know what I mean? So they've
Yeah.
got to have a way that the average player, and obviously ranks and stuff like that, because you go on the in-game ladder in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and Pokeball tier or beginner tier, sometimes you run into a sweat, and then but sometimes you just run into somebody that's using their favorites, right? So I think there's going to be a bit of that too, but
Yeah,
expect the competitive scene to get a little congested. You know what I mean? Like we're
I
already
agree.
seeing it now with the what do they call it? Quality of life changes. They're getting Pokemon into more people's hands, right? It's getting a lot easier. Someone who is a singles guy that just plays the game and puts it down says, VGC is getting easier to build teams. So I'm gonna start trying it now. And then you have a lot of really intelligent people that are getting into the scene now that are just cross game
Hmm.
like who there how many TCG players are like, let's try VGC, and they're winning tournaments,
Hmm.
you know.
One thing is another thing. Sorry, I just remembered. I want to bring up before we actually move on from the discussion of EVs and everything. A
Yeah.
little bit of potentially misinformation I've seen within the community.
Oh
Everyone
yeah.
is using this screenshot
Hmm.
for the fact that IVs have been removed from the game. Right
Yep.
now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that they are 100% in the game because I honestly don't know. Right.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
have seen far too many people say, "Oh my god, IVs are gone. IVs have been removed. This is the greatest thing." Like we don't know that. All we know
No.
is, right, this person, this trainer recruited the Gardevoir in game. For all we know, any recruited Pokemon will have perfect stats, right? And again,
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
like this is another one of those really small things where it's like, "Oh, if you recruit in game, it has perfect stats." Oh, you want zero speed? You have to transfer from Pokemon Home. So like I've
Yep.
seen a lot of people saying IVs are removed. I'm not going to sit here and again, I'm not going to 100% say, oh, IVs are definitely in the game. I don't know.
No.
But too many people have seen this one screenshot, and because Gardevoir's IVs are not on this screen, they're saying, okay, IVs are done.
Well, if you look at the stats too, all those stats are based on, actually, is 76 attack
They're
based on 31 IVs?
yes, they are. I
Yeah.
checked this. Oh, your camera's gone.
Oh, sorry.
He's back.
Cool, we're back.
Yeah. No, yeah, no, I've checked this myself. It was literally the first thing I did because again, it's like when I saw this, I saw the 2 points in Spadef. I was like, holy crap, is this? And again, I can actually probably like, I think I can pull this up. I can. If I go to a Gardevoir here, right? I'll do this for you. If I go to a Gardevoir, I make it level 50, right?
Hmm.
And then it was Timid Max, right? So we can see
Yeah.
here, my Gardevoir has 177 special attack, 136, and then 145. If I jump
Dude,
back
that extra
here,
point is
we can
killing me.
see 177. Was just want to double check that was correct, right? Yep, 177. And then I have 136. They have 137. So it is confirmed this is one extra point, and then
Yep.
145, and I am also 145. My attack here is 76. This is a timid nature with a maximum IV here, and we can see here it has 76. So this is a completely maxed out 31 IV Gardevoir. So again, it's one of those things where people are saying IVs have been removed. It's like, well, technically, even if they have been removed, this is still a perfect Gardevoir, right? It still has 31 IVs because everything is maxed out. But that is just something I did want to just briefly mention because I've seen a lot of conversation about this online. I've seen people, not to throw anyone under the bus here, but I know Audi did a video on it saying like the worst thing about Pokemon ever has been removed, and it's like, well, we actually don't know if IVs are gone yet. It's just an assumption a
There
lot
was
of
a
people are making.
Yeah, it was a very clickable video, right? Because
Hmm.
it got my attention. It was a hell of a
Yeah.
title, so he's
Yeah, well, I
definitely
think a
very
lot
good
of
at
people,
making
yeah, a lot of
videos.
people watched it, and like again, it's. I think it's a good conversation to have, just because if IVs are gone, that's massive. Like I've spoken about this. Well, I don't think I've spoken about this recently, but in past videos, right? For example, a great one is Amoonguss, right? Amoonguss is right now running 27 speed IVs, and the reason for that is so they are always slower than Ursaluna, right? But all of the sudden, like for example, Blood Moon Ursaluna is another fantastic one, right? There are people out there who will go like, min speed Blood Moon Ursaluna, and then we would see Iron Hands have a little bit of speed so it can play in Tailwind. And then there's always this like mind game of like, who's slower here? Are they just adamant and this guy's brave? Or like, sorry, I mean, I guess it would be quiet if it's a Blood Moon Ursaluna, but
Yeah.
knowing that your opponent has to be 31 speed IVs, I think would actually be really interesting. And as someone who doesn't touch Trick Room, I would love it because it's like if I'm running something slow like an Incin, I don't have to worry about my opponent being like a quiet Armor Rouge or something like that with zero speed IVs. Yeah, definitely worth something I think mentioning at least.
Well, they would. I wouldn't put it past them, and you're right when and I've been saying this ever since. Like, absence of information is not information.
Yeah.
So the fact that we don't see IVs doesn't mean they don't exist. It just means exactly what we said. We don't see them. There could be another screen. We know that the stats are based off of 31 IVs, so they might have just maxed everything out and then just you can't change it. That's possible. I will also say when you showed me that now it's 512 instead of 508 EVs now, um, that does change things. It does. That extra point. So if that is the case, which we're looking at it, right? So it's definitely the case,
Mm-hmm.
unless this is wrong and they're going to update it or change it, whatever it is, which is possible. You never know. I wouldn't put it past them to just eliminate IVs entirely, right? It is possible,
So
but again, we can't say for sure here or there, right?
another thing as well, actually, that is really interesting that this screen actually does show is, if anything, EVs have been removed in place of stat points. So obviously, it ends up being the exact same thing. But as we can
Yeah.
see here, this isn't EVs, right? This is just one stat point gives one stat. I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
Um, so we see here this Gardevoir has stat points 66 out of 66. This, so if anything, potentially EVs are gone. Obviously, it's going to function the exact same way EVs did, but it is definitely worth something mentioning. This doesn't say 512 like you just mentioned. This says 66.
Yep. Yeah. I'm really curious to kind of see. It won't change
Yeah.
the everything drastically, but it is notable that you got an extra point, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because like speed's a big one, right? Having one extra point in speed could make or break a speed tie, right?
Exactly. Yeah. All right. So, another pretty big thing I did want to discuss here is private battles, and I do think this actually affects you and I more than a majority of players in the game. And that's because we are both big fans of Draft League. Yourself in particular, obviously, you are the draft guy. And I think private battles in this game is going to really change, I guess, the way draft in general just works.
It's gonna be huge, man. Like we were talking about giving like access to the game and stuff like that. Like there's so many showdown leagues that there's a lot of division within the draft league community where people can play cart like I play cart leagues for the most part. I
Mm-hmm.
play in the game. I don't want to play on a simulator the best I can, but the accessibility from showdown makes draft league so popular, so big. But now you have it on mobile again, like I said earlier, everybody has a phone. Everybody has a phone.
Mm-hmm.
So if but again, if you I guess you know what? Because you have to actually get the Pokemon in game, maybe that doesn't leave it as accessible as I thought, unless you do formats like Pokemon Champions format or something like that, saying, hey, you can only use Pokemon in Champions right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that like being able to play draft on like a actual game like this, the 3D game rather than Showdown, does open up doors for Draft League in some way. I can't wait to find out more exactly what it will make available and in reality what it'll be.
Yeah, well, look, I think for me as well, one of the biggest things that this game will hopefully add to draft, right, is just the ability to change your teams, right? Obviously, we're coming off playing, season one of the DDL together, and my team had Enamorus and it had Thunderous. Now, the genies are not easy Pokemon to obtain, right?
Yeah.
Enamorus is like only available in ZA, right? I have an Enamorus. My Enamorus set changed every week because in draft, you don't just go timid max max. I had a week where I was like max HP, a ridiculous amount of defense with an assault vest, right?
Mhm.
It's not fun having to re-EV that. It's also not fun having to, change Terra type all the time. The amount of resources you have to invest just to go and get a new Terra was really, really annoying. And I think that personally is why, again, I think draft is just so big, right? Like you go back to that screen of the Gardevoir we were just looking at, and you know what? It took maybe a minute. Like, let's be honest, like, as long as you know what you're doing, a minute to EV train that Mon, change its ability,
Yeah.
obviously when Terra comes into the game, change its Terra. That's another thing as well we didn't even see on that screen. Like, there was no option to change the Gardevoir's Terra there. So, like, again, no Terra on the screen, no, like IVs and whatnot. But, yeah, I just think as a draft league player, I think this is just going to be revolutionary, right? Obviously, the format and whatnot, it should be pretty fun. Like, eventually, hopefully, every Pokemon's in the game. So, again, maybe you can start having some really fun, draft formats that you can play around with. But yeah, I just think for draft in general, I think this is going to be so big.
Yeah, and There's another conversation too with draft leagues, and there's Nat Dex leagues versus standard Dex leagues, or like Scarlet and Violet Dex leagues, right? So, and we were talking about IVs earlier. Well, what affects like what do IVs affect, right? Hidden power,
Hmm.
right? So if there's no IVs, there's no hidden power, which means that move is completely obliterated from the game, right? So that we're getting information without really getting the information kind
Hmm.
of thing. So, and also answering questions we have if we really dive into it. But yeah, like just accessibility, like you said, and I do think we have to touch on slightly the effect that Jennings has had on the community and in game and stuff. It's a line right down the middle. Either people love it, they hate it. Either you're full Verlicify or you're like full draft league gen everything. I don't care, right? So um, the problem with genning right now that Pokemon Company has is they have a global trading system and they have your surprise trades and stuff like that. And one of the problems is they don't catch which one is legal, which one's not. So there were
Hmm.
some tournaments where people claimed, I don't know them personally, they were claiming that they got it on their official trading system and it was flagged as illegal and generated, and then they were banned from the tournament. Are they going to have checks in place so they can not allow you to upload stuff from home that's hacked? Are they eventually going to change that? Because if that's the case, Draft League, they love it. The Jenning community for draft is massive, right? So I think that will be a big thing because you gen the Pokemon in the game, transfer it into your Pokemon champions and play your week, right? Now you don't necessarily, yeah, it's tough. Like
I I
it's
think
definitely changed things.
something I do just want to touch on there as well when it comes to transferring to home to champions. So it doesn't actually say that we can transfer. It says we can connect, which means
Oh yeah.
I actually think it's more likely that if you have a say a Thunderous in your home, it will just be available now in champions. Just because it doesn't say you can transfer, it says you can connect, right? So
Oh
that's obviously
cool.
something again, we're not fully certain on, right? Obviously, who knows exactly how it's going to happen, but now look,
That would be
I'm
cool
with
though.
you, right? Jennings always been a very, I guess, touchy subject in Pokemon in general,
Yes.
right? Because again, I've been there, right? I've had well, I don't want to say I've had friends. There's a friend I now have who I didn't know in the past who got caught for jenning an event. Again, same thing. He claimed that a friend of his helped him get the team in game. He didn't know his friend Gent. It happens, right? And even like another thing, going back to what you were saying about the official trade system, I saw something on Facebook, I think it was the other day. It was like some kid in a group was like, "Oh, look what I just got on Wonder Trade," and it was a Machamp that was from like blah blah blah
But
dot
champs have
com.
become
Yeah, it was like a
yeah.
shiny Machamp, and its name was like whatever dot com, and it's like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
this
Poor
poor
kid.
kid thinks he just hit the jackpot. He's got this Machamp traded to him, and it's like, nah, it's clearly gen. It's clearly a hacked mon, and again, like I said, as you said, I think that is like an issue, right? Is it's like there's a line, and it's like people are for it, people are against it. I think as long as this game is very, very accessible for players and it's very easy to train Pokemon, I don't think genning will ever be an issue going forward. I've also heard from people a lot smarter than me that genning will not be possible in future games because of how the Switch 2 is set up. So, um, another thing. So yeah, fingers crossed. Really that it's going to be easy to get your Pokemon in game, and genning just becomes a thing of the past.
Yeah, and I think they're taking steps over the years. You can definitely tell to make it easier to eliminate genning.
Hmm.
They'll never fully eliminate it, unfortunately. You're always going to have those communities that you just want a Pokemon immediately, and then you just gen it. Takes 2 seconds, so that'll always be
Hmm.
around. But it's just, I think they're just trying to do their best to make it so you don't have to. Like,
Yeah.
people argue about the pay to win stuff, right? Like with Ursaluna, I don't want to go buy CA, sorry, not ZA, Legends Arceus. I don't want to go buy Arceus, but I want to use Enamorus. I don't want to spend $90. Actually, looking at in Canada, Pokopia was a $99 game.
Hmm.
It's they used to be 69, 79. It used to be 80. Like it's just people don't want to spend that much money anymore, especially when how difficult it is in life. Like people are losing their jobs, people are
Yeah.
not getting raises, things are costing more.
Ooh.
And tariffs are just raising the cost of things, so it's really tough.
And another thing I also want to add to this, and again, this is something I've argued for since Regulation D, right? Everything you just said is 100% true. Also, a majority of people who play this game are kids who don't have jobs, right? So
Yeah.
little Timmy has to go to mum and say, "Mum, I really need Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. I need Sword and Shield. I need the DLC for
I
both
need one
games. I need Legends
Pokemon.
Arceus. I need
Yeah.
Legends EA. And Timmy's mum's just gonna be like, Timmy, you get one game a year. You don't get all of this.
Yep.
I want the DLC. Timmy, you got the game. You don't need the DLC. It's like,
Yep.
very big. Obviously, we've kind of touched on that, but yeah, I think it's hopefully those issues are now gone.
Well, that's why I think too this game, Pokemon Champions, is going to solve a lot of that too, because it
Hmm.
says VP you can't buy, but if you didn't want to buy Pokemon Legends ZA, you'd use the exact, sorry, not ZA, what's the first one called again? Arceus, Legends
Hmm.
Arceus. If you didn't want to buy that game for $80 or whatever it is, um, then you could just spend real life money, $10, 9.99 gets Ursaluna. You unlock it forever. Cool.
Hmm.
I would do that. If I didn't
Hmm.
have the game, I spend $10 to get one Pokemon or whatever it is. Like, because there's only a handful. Cresselia was zero speed. That's a big one, right? Zero attack, zero speed. Like, can you buy these? Are they going to implement this rusted bottle cap? So this money aspect, it will make them money and save people money at the same time. And I think it will still be split down the middle, who hates it and who loves it.
And you know
You
what's even
know?
funny? You mentioned money. There are poor suckers on the internet who pay for gen to Pokemon.
Yeah.
Like, I actually have a friend who told me, like, when he tried to get into competitive Pokemon in like Generation 7, he just bought a team off eBay. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like, surely you just
Just
like,
join Discord community, man. Like,
yeah,
dude,
dude,
I'm in the
it's
Discord community where I was
crazy.
like, I don't have a Raging Bolt. Who's got one? And my buddy's just like, yeah, I've got
Yeah,
one. I'm like, what's
you
its
asked
attack
me for a
IV?
Raging Bolt for Toronto.
I did, and then I
Yeah.
actually asked like two or three people because I was panicking, and I got a reply from someone, and but because somebody was sleeping, not because of their time zone, it's because they're just lazy and they're always sleeping. No, you're Australian, whatever. I got it before, but everybody's so helpful, right? So I
Yeah,
always
exactly.
emphasize on my channel, get involved in the community, Discord,
Hmm.
Reddit. Like everybody's super super cool, and you learn so much. You get so much better at the game, and I'm pretty sure it's like golf clubs. Like, hey, I can't hit this. Do you want it? And I've got like 5 clubs in my bag that belong to other people. Same
Hmm.
thing with my Pokemon boxes. I lend out my shiny Rillaboom. Someone
Dude,
wants to bring it to a tournament.
my
Like
mate
it's
Luke just played New Zealand last weekend with my shiny Reggie Drago.
right.
Yeah, I knew he was taking Drago. I said, here, take a shiny, make it a regional champion. He got top four, so it's not quite a champion, but we're feeling good.
Loser.
Exactly.
Top four. Lose. No, I'm kidding. I'll never get top four.
So another, I guess, pretty big thing as well that Pokemon Champions will be bringing is one, hopefully a home that every single Pokemon ever will be in, but also two Mega Evolutions, right? Part of the, I guess, this Dex, will bring back Megas. It will bring back all Pokemon. Another thing as well that's really cool is there are Pokemon that we thought were potentially lost to time that will hopefully come back. Things like Ultra Necrozma, will hopefully
Mhm.
be making a return. I am just trying to find the screen here where they actually mention all the Pokemon coming back. But I guess, yeah, what are your thoughts on finally, hopefully, having a home that like every Pokemon can, I guess, be in?
Yeah, and there's the hopeful side of it, and then there's the realistic side, and then there's the pessimist side, right? So the
Hmm.
hopeful side is every Pokemon in history will be in the game at launch.
Eventually.
You
Oh no,
import
no,
it
no, we
in.
know that. I'm sorry to cut you off. I got it on the screen here. We already know it will not be available. It literally says at the time
Oh,
of release, only select Pokemon will be available for use in Pokemon Champions. Not all Pokemon will be available in Pokemon Home. Wait, not all Pokemon available in Pokemon Home will appear in Pokemon Champions.
okay. Well, I'm glad
Okay.
you mentioned that because that eliminates these optimists that are just like, oh man, I'm gonna get to run with Pidgeot. It's like, I don't know. We'll
I
see.
think no, no,
I
no.
have.
Bad example. I think Pidgeot will be in the game. We'll touch on
Oh
that in
yeah,
a
the Mega.
second.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
I didn't actually finish ZA, guilty as charged, but I have opinions on ZA, which we won't get into in this video. But when it comes down to actually like using Pokemon in the game, the are we going to talk about VGC specifically formats, or are we just going to talk about what you want to use in the game?
I think it kind of. I would say let's specifically talk about VG, but it kind of carries over to everything, right? Because like I think for me, and again, this is something I've been speaking about for ages, right? Is like I love the idea of like shifting formats, right? And again, I love bringing this up because I think the biggest mistake they made with Scarlet and Violet was bringing in Regulation D. That one home update that only added like 15 Pokemon I don't want to say ruin the game, but it really ruined the flow of how I think the generation should have panned out, right? You think about it, we had 2 months of Series A, 2 months of Series B, and then I think it was 3 months of Series C, which technically I think ended up becoming Regulation C. So we had
Yeah.
like 7 months on the regional decks, and then they just said, here's the Urshis, here's the Genies, here's Rilla, here's Incin. And it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's only 10 Pokemon, but it's like, the
And we
10 best.
never
I mean,
saw
and the
powerful
Ursalunas
again.
too. And it's like you just added the 10 best Pokemon in the game. It's like, and this is
Yeah.
something like I've seen a lot of people as well talk about Fluttermane, right? And obviously, like again, this kind of heads into the whole dex. Fluttermane is clearly an overtuned Pokemon, right? So is Urshifu, right?
Hmm.
So is things like Raging Bolt. And it's like you have these formats now where it's felt like for essentially the last 2 years, we've just been stuck in a position where we have all these really, really powerful Pokemon that are really centralizing the format. And, I'm actually I'm one of the people who believe Regulation F, which is the current format, is not as centralizing as everyone says. Obviously, there are a handful of Pokemon that are incredibly good, but there are something like 15 to 20 Pokemon that do have 10% usage, right? Which I do think is pretty good. But at the same time, and again, this is where, changing formats comes into it. I made a video about this recently, but I think the Tarpus would have fixed some of the major issues we had in this generation. Like I've spoken about it before. Urshifu Rapid and Urshifu Single Strike just had a combined like 72% usage at a regional. So 72% of the teams I think at Toronto had an Urshifu on it, which is absolutely absurd, right? But
Guilty.
why are the Urshifus so good, right? It's because there's just nothing in the game that counters them. Like, yes, don't get me wrong, Fluttermane is a really, really good Pokemon into them and is arguably the best Pokemon in the format, but Fluttermane has some very, very clear weaknesses, which is its very
Yeah.
poor physical bulk, right? And again, this is where things like priority moves and all like there's counterplay to that. What is the best counterplay to an Urshifu? It's you slap a Tapu Fini on the team. Because not only does Tapu Fini hardwall both of them, it also like ruins a Moongus, it ruins this Fluttermane with like T-Wave spam. It just that Pokemon alone just fixes so many issues we've had in Regulation F. It's also like a fairy type with a decent matchup into Raging Bolt that can just calm mine next to it. You can't Draco Meteor with its terrain because you just do 50% less damage. And then don't get me started on Tapu Koko, man. The paradox, the future paradox Pokemon are so hungry for a setter, man. Like, because Torkoal, like, in my opinion, is not a great sun setter, but like, Torkoal has its niche. It's a very, very good, sunroom Pokemon. Pincurchin's just awful. Like, there are guys like Iron Bundle sitting there thinking, damn, I wish I could have a sash and my ability, or like, and my booster, right? And so, like, just those two Pokemon alone, I think would just completely warp how we look at Regulation F. And I haven't even mentioned the Ultra Beast, right? Like, we didn't mention that there's like 15 other really powerful Pokemon that could also kind of slot into this format and be pretty decent. Um, and again, this is where it just comes to changing formats. I feel like there's so much you can do when eventually all these Pokemon are in the game.
Well, they've definitely got a team. It seems like every single gen, the conversation when the game comes out is why is this Pokemon excluded? And how did they come to this decision to leave it out? And we won't even get into Sword and Shield having the code for all the Pokemon anyway. And then, I like the original leaked devs, like the dev footage, and where it had like the see-through walls and stuff like that in the overworld. There was a Pidgeot. He was using a Pidgeot in battle, and the game never had it. So, who is deciding which Pokemon are not in this game and why? Because there are so many Pokemon that people want to use, and they just limit us. So, I've never understood why. It might be for balancing, but I also don't think balancing is their major priority because. And I've used this reference before. I think it's hilarious. Is I don't know if anybody's a Simpsons guy that's watching this, but there was like an end of an episode where they had like a bunch of snakes all around, and then so all they did was just release a an animal to kill all the snakes. And then Lisa, the smart girl, goes, "Well, but then you're gonna have a problem with this." And it's like, "No, that's fine, but then we'll release this animal to kill all them. But then you'll have that problem." So this
Mhm.
is what they're doing. They're just like, "I'm gonna release an Urshifu in Gen 8. It's gonna have three triple hitting move, guaranteed crits. It'll be super strong. We'll have Dynamax, awesome." And then some guy in the corner that eventually gets thrown out the window in that meme, right, is just going, isn't that going to be a problem for future generations? Like, we're still dealing with Kyogre and Groudon, and you throw them out the window. So then next gen, they're like, let's just create Raging Bolt. Yeah, yeah, that'll deal with it. Now you have a Raging Bolt problem.
Well,
So,
I
and
mean,
then they're going to come out. Like it's
So that
I
so
I don't know what they're doing.
sorry to cut you off there. That's a great example because again, Urshifu is a problem. What do? They give you Ogerpon Wellspring. You're like, oh shit, it can actually just close combat or U-turn it. They give you a Raging Bolt, and it's like, yeah, it's a bit of a problem. And something else I completely forgot as well. Like when we're just talking about what mons are cut and what aren't. Why are the XYZ legends the only restricted legends not in this game? And again, you mentioned it balancing. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure everyone out there is probably glad they don't have to deal with what is it, a
Xerneas.
fairy or a Fluttermane or a Beads of Ruin. Sorry, not yeah, fairy or a Fluttermane or a Beads of Ruin Xerneas. Same thing goes for like Chen Pao. No one wants to deal with like double sucker punch from Dark Aura, right? Like I'm sure there are reasons that you Terra Fairy Xerneas or God forbid Terra Ground Xerneas with like Moonblast, Terra Blast, and like
Oh,
Geomancy,
stop.
like yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, so I get it. Like, there are probably reasons why these Pokemon were left out. But again, like, and this is where it comes back to formats, right? Like, I personally think the double restricted format we had in this generation was awful. And I personally think a big reason for that was because there was just so few that were good. And realistically speaking, we probably didn't have five of the best restricted Pokemon legal in this game. And obviously, I'm talking about Xerneas and Yveltal mainly there, but the Primals and Mega Ray are like two other massive ones that will hopefully be getting back soon. Like we've just seen them, they're all in ZA. So
Yeah.
they've got their 3D models ready to go. Like there is a good chance that next time we hit a restricted format, like the Primals are going to be back, Xern and Yveltal are going to be back. Um, and I personally, like for me, I think that's great, right? Is like I think we need like, and again, they can do stuff with formats, right? I'm sure they can have a format where they say, hey, Calyrex Shadow Rider was clearly broken. Like, let's ban it,
Yeah.
Like, or let's like the top five restricteds, let's just push them to the side for like a couple months and see how everything else plays out.
Yeah, I had no problem with my Cali Shadow on ladder with my troll nose pass Eviolite wide guard pain split. Oof.
Jesus. Look, I guess there's a lot of stuff we can talk about when it comes to the decks, right? And I do think there is something else worth mentioning, right? Is it does say at the time of release, only select Pokemon will be available. Um, Obviously, we know megas are being heavily pushed. Again, you have a look; they've shown off quite a few megas. Obviously, with the promotion of ZA as well, megas have been a big thing. Um, I guess what do you think about the decks to start with? Like, do you think just every Pokemon that has a mega and isn't a mythical will just be available day one?
It's hard to say, man, because they always throw us off with the decisions they make. We can speculate in what makes sense to us, but then you just kind of scratch your head sometimes at the decisions they make, and you're like, so the limited decks that they're talking about, and the fact that we've only seen like one screen of like a small amount of Pokemon, like we're gonna essentially have when they release a new gen, like Gen 9, they have the day one decks, right? The
Hmm.
400 Pokemon that they have. There is essentially going to be another, let's just call it a 400 set of Pokemon or less that they're going to have on day one. And the concerning part about that is what is the competitive format going to look like with a small dex? Because look at Unite, right? They only had what, like a dozen or something like that. That's a little different. But like, I don't know if they're gonna be like we can only look at what's we've seen on the screen. How many like you're on the screen
So
right now? How
yeah,
many
I just
do
pulled it
we have?
up. So if you have a look here, like we first of
Oh,
all we don't have many, but we do have a lot of incredibly hard hitters for like again we can do the math on this right, but it looks like maybe
the
20
selling
to
points.
30. But you're talking Megazard Y's in the game, Mega Gengar's in the game, Mega Kang's in the game. Dragonite
Yeah,
plus potentially Mega Dragonite are in the game. Mega Gator's in the game. Mega Sizzle, Mega Tita, Mega Guardi, Milotic, which is typically one of the better answers to Incineroar and low power formats with competitive. We've got Mega Metagross here. We have a competitive Empoleon. We have Mega Chomp potentially. We have Mega Lucario. Like,
Leafeon
I
for
mean,
some
Leafeon.
reason.
I mean, hey, we need something to abuse Charizard's son, right?
Yeah,
But
it just you have all these Pokemon, it just doesn't belong. You're like,
yeah,
oh, you got all these Wicked, and then you got a Leafeon, huh?
yeah. I mean, like you got a Hydreigon, right? So again, like all
Yeah,
the pseudos have essentially been shown in the game, right? Talonflame, one of the best supports. Aegislash, Slash, a Pokemon we haven't seen since X and Y off memory. Sylveon, which is like arguably like probably a top three non-restricted fairy. You've got
yeah,
Incin, the goat of VGC. Oranguru, one of the most annoying Trick Room mons. Komodo and Dragapult, obviously another double up pseudo legend there. Hisui and Ursaluna, like one of the scariest one-hit machines we've ever seen in competitive Pokemon. Another one-hit machine in Basculegion. the Bane of
He's hilarious.
Regulation H, like Dondozo's here. We got, Sinners. Like,
Which means Tatsugiri's here.
yeah, like this actually just looks like a Regulation H format with like Aegislash added.
This is encouraging, dude. Like
Yeah.
looking at this list here, this is encouraging because it looks like you only had slots to show certain amount of Pokemon. They're just showing everyone's favorites.
Hmm.
Like Pikachu, Gengar are like two of the most Googled. Pikachu, Charizard, Gengar
Probably the
are the
three.
most Googled
Outside of
Pokemon
maybe
or most
Eevee.
popular. What's that?
Maybe Eevee could be in there too.
Yeah, Eevee as well. Yeah, and we've already got an Evolution, a couple of them there.
Two.
So it's encouraging because yes, we've only and I know the absence of information is not information, but if you wanted to promote a game, you show everyone all their favorite Pokemon. I believe it will be much larger than this, and I don't think it's a hot take
Oh
to
yeah.
say, but the fact that you have the big popular ones there, it's encouraging.
So I will say, obviously, you said it will be much larger than this. I 100% agree. The question is Eevee going to be obtainable in this game? I feel like Eevee is like, yes, Eevee is going to be in the game. Um, are Komodo and Dragapult's like baby forms going to be available in the game? Like, do they waste their time putting like Dreepy in the game? I'm not too sure.
Yeah, Little Cup.
Personally,
Yeah,
so that's one thing I was just about to say. Personally, I would love 3 months of Little Cup. Could you imagine if one day they just say, hey, yeah, you're playing NFEs only? Granted, I would hope they would do the Smogon stuff and say, hey, Scyther, you're not allowed an NFE. Gligar, get the hell out of here. But like
yeah,
maybe it's like, hey, if you're part of like a 3-stage evolution line and you're the baby of that evolution, like you're legal. Right? I think something like that would be really cool. But again, yeah, look, I think if I had to guess, including baby forms, the dex would probably be somewhere between 3 to 400. And then
yeah,
and then at that stage, they would maybe be like, hey, every 2 to 3 months, here's 50 more, here's 50 more, here's 50 more. Eventually, you hit
yep,
Generation 10. They're like, here is the entire Generation 10 dex. And then again,
yep,
50 more, 50 more. Maybe you keep the restricteds out of it until, an eventual restricted format, probably 3-4 years from now. Maybe they do something kind of similar with like the sub legends where they just say, hey, you're going to have 2 years, no sub legends. Like maybe we do a regional, like maybe the rest of 2026, it's just going to be regional decks with bits and pieces added, every couple of months. We head into a Gen 10 format where it's like, okay, now you've got a Gen 10 format. Like, so you got a format where we're going to add all the Gen 10 stuff and then we'll kind of drip feed the rest of the Pokemon. And then maybe a year after that, they're like, okay, now you can have the Tarpus and the Ultra Beast, the Paradox Pokemon and stuff like that.
Yeah, the minor adjustments that they have, like they're giving themselves the ability to wield this properly. Like for example, like remember the big thing when Scarlet and Violet came out with Indeedee? Oh crap, the code was messed up with the Trick Room and the I forget what the other one was. It was Trick Room on one of them, so giving Indeedee female
They
Trick Room was
female,
a
yeah.
huge.
So Indeedee
They
F never
decided
had
not to
that.
fix it.
Yes, crazy by the way.
Yeah, so
Enabled a
they
whole
have the
archetype.
ability to just change it, right? They could just
Hmm.
change it and be like, this is illegal. Or you can make minor patches. I don't think they'll do this, but they can like Cresselia, for example, had what 120
It lost 10 in
defensive.
both its bulk stats heading into this gen.
Yeah, exactly, right. So they can do little balancing things like that. Like Dondozo Tatsugiri, you get a +2. If it's broken at one point, then, if you don't have Terra, for example, in a certain format, they can maybe make it a +1 across the board instead of +2.
Hmm.
They can drop the base power
And
of Surging Strikes, you
And
know?
look, this does actually lead into another topic I did want to discuss, which is balance patches, right? And a great
Yeah,
example of that is a Pokemon on this list, Empoleon. For anyone who I guess doesn't know, before Generation 9, Empoleon's hidden ability was Defiant. Heading
yeah,
into the DLC when it was introduced, they gave it competitive, which just makes so much more sense. Because again, if you look at a Pokemon like Empoleon, right? This Pokemon, oh really? Okay, they're gonna be pains here. Well, I'm gonna have to go through the whole website here of Cerebi, but yeah, like if you look at its stat spread, right, it has like 85 attack. Oh yeah, sorry, 86 attack and 111 special attack. So it really made no sense to run this as a Defiant Pokemon because it's like, well, without Defiant, you're just worse than like as a special attacker. But all of a sudden
yeah.
now they changed Defiant to competitive, and it's like, oh, Empoleon's actually like low key kind of decent now. And
Yeah, it's
again, there's a
usable.
lot of Pokemon they can do that for. Like again, this is like I'm sure you and I could sit here for 8 hours and talk about this, but you can run through the entire Generation 1 Pokédex, right? Off the top of my head, Venusaur, it's solid, don't touch it. Charizard, solid, don't touch it. Blastoise, like, why do they get Solar Power on Charizard, Chlorophyll on Venusaur? Why has Blastoise got Rain Dish? What's like
Yeah,
1/16th HP if you're in rain? Like
the ugly
1/16th
child.
HP, or you get a free choice specs. 1/16 HP, or you double your speed. Like, come on, what are we talking about here, right? And then again, you can go down the list, right? Butterfree, useless. Pidgeot, useless. Beedrill, even with its mega, probably still useless. Like, I know we've spoken about this before. I have high hopes for Mega Beedrill. It's probably not going to be good. Like, it needs a lot more
Yeah,
help, I think, to actually be a half decent Pokemon. But like, there, and again, like, this is something I've spoken about in past videos. I've had a lot of comments about this. A lot of people, from what I've seen, are probably a more a fan of like giving buffs rather than nerfs, and I don't necessarily hate that. Like, I think Empoleon's actually a perfect example of what they probably need to look at going forward, because I'm sure there are a lot of Pokemon in a very similar position to Empoleon, where it has decent stats, it has a decent type, but its ability was just useless. And then it's like, wait,
mhm.
all of a sudden with competitive, like Empoleon, and again, Empoleon's like a victim of just Scarlet and Violet in general. It was just at the time it was released into this game, like, how's it competing with the Ogerpons, the Paradox? It's just not. But we head back into a regional dex format where maybe we don't have Sneasler and Ursaluna and everything running around, and like maybe Empoleon all of a sudden, like in a Incineroar format, becomes incredibly good, right? And it's like it's
Yeah,
small
we've seen
buffs
it
like
again,
that
Mega.
I would love to see.
Like there's always a format that some builder finds something that just works, right? And by making Pokemon slightly better and optimizing them for what they are, it just makes them more usable in that niche format. Like we saw Orthworm for a hot minute, we saw Flamigo for a hot minute, we saw Yanmega, little things like that. Like it's just it just I think like the patching and just adjusting things, I think it just makes sense. Will they do it? That's the question. Like you
I
can
think to a
have this.
certain extent, yes, but I don't think it will be as much as I want them to do, but I definitely think we'll see something.
I hope so. I because there's a few Pokemon that just they need help.
And
They need some
look,
help.
a great example, my boy on the screen right now for Alligator. I know it's a hot topic, it's mega. I actually love it. Like, yes, when its mouth is open, it's kind of goofy, but when that thing's mouth is closed, I actually think it's really cute. And this is something I've joked about in the past, right? And again, this kind of carries into another topic that I don't know if we're going to touch on today, but all the new megas don't have abilities, right? At least as
Yep.
of right
I
now.
was
I'm
just
sure
thinking
when
that.
Pokemon Champions comes out, we will learn their abilities. I
Mhm.
personally think Mega Feraligatr is probably going to get Strong Jaw. Is
Yep.
Strongjaw good on this Pokemon? Probably not. Like, it's a water dragon. I don't think there's a dragon type move that uses Strongjaw. And as far as I'm aware, there's one water move that it doesn't learn. But
Vicious friend.
a minor buff, give Feraligatr Fisher's Rend. Like, again, this mon gets Dragon Dance. Like, I think it could be absolutely freaking broken, and I'm all
Could you
for it. Like,
imagine
I
Vicious
know,
friend Dragon
dude.
Dance?
So I have a video planned for later this week, so I don't want to touch too much on it. But for anyone
Yeah.
who doesn't know, no one would probably know this because I've never had a chance to speak about this. I got into like the way I got into VGC was through draft leagues in Generation 8. My very first draft I ever played, I won. My combination was my first pick was Dragapult, my second pick was Dracovish, and I would just go max Geyser with my Dragapult, and then I would activate the Dracovish, and I would just Fisher's Rend one shot everything. And I thought it was the funniest thing ever. Choice Scarf Fisher's Rend in rain was so fun. Now imagine you get to click Dragon Dance on a Feraligatr and then do the exact same thing.
Remember we were talking about eliminating the snakes with a stronger animal? I,
But
it's
this
time to
thing,
come back.
when has Gator ever been good? And like, to be honest,
Yeah.
it probably wouldn't. If Fluttermane is ever legal, I don't think Fisher's Rend would be enough to make this thing good, right? Like, one
No.
Dragon Dance is not going to outspeed a Sash Fluttermane, let alone a Booster Fluttermane, right?
Yeah.
Sun will be everywhere. Like, I think this is one of those Pokemon where it would give it a niche in like maybe more powerful formats, but like I don't think it would be that broken if you gave it Fisher's Rend. And again, maybe I love Fisher's Rend, right? Fisher's Rend in Rain is one of my favorite moves ever created. So maybe I'm biased, but I think just little things like that could go so far, man.
Well, they did turn unique moves or what's it called?
Signature
Like
moves.
yeah, signature moves into non-signature moves. Like parting shot used to be a signature move, and they gave it to Pokemon that we won't mention. But like there are
Scraggy.
some moves. Oh yeah, Scraggy. Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
So
but there's
hopefully.
I wouldn't be surprised if they move stuff around like that. And but I think just to touch on the abilities again, like that's another big thing. Champions we're all excited for. I don't know. I think there are some people that are even more excited to find out what abilities these things are gonna
Oh,
have.
so and again, like obviously I pray that like I somehow get my hands on this game early just because it's like when that first day drops, man, there is so much I want to cover and you
Yep.
best believe that is going to be one of the first videos I put out is these are all the abilities, how good do I think they're going to be? And it's like that's why I'm actually worried. Like that's I tell people it's why I don't want to shadow drop, man. Like it's either I hope Game Freak reaches out to me and says, "Hey Scott, you want to copy 2 weeks in advance?" That's like okay, I can plan shit. But like if this game shadow drops, right? And again, like full transparency, I'm Australian. That trailer is going to be at 1 a.m. I'm not sleeping that night. Like I'm not
No,
sleeping that night, man. Like you can't
definitely.
shadow drop it on me like this. Like I gotta make a video on all the abilities. Like and there's again, I'm expecting buffs and nerfs. Like so across the board, right? I'm again, it might not be much, but there's gonna be Pokemon like our good friend Empoleon here, who's probably gonna get a new ability. You know, maybe Butterfree gets like priority Tailwind. I don't know. Like there's
Priority
so much.
sport.
Yeah, maybe priority sleep powder. Like dude, they're like when it comes to the balance and the new stuff. Like again, this is like we could make a video every day about this for the next month, and we probably still wouldn't cover everything.
No. Yeah, it's I think a lot of people just can't wait, and you're one of them,
It's
right?
oh man, like I words can't describe. Like it's funny. I don't know if it was you or someone else I spoke to recently about. And no, it wasn't. It was when I was on the O2 podcast. Shout out the boys, by the way. But they asked me like why I make YouTube videos, right? And or like why I wanted to get into making YouTube videos. And the answer is I just love talking about things I'm passionate about. And like things like the abilities these megas are going to get, it's like, oh, like there's just it makes me so excited just thinking about it. Like what I struggle to like put into words sometimes like how excited I am for stuff like that.
Well, it matters. Like it's a hobby of ours, and the hobby is
Mhm.
constantly evolving and changing and stuff. It's so dynamic, right? We get new games every few years. We get new formats every few months, right? And these little things, like it's something to look forward to, right?
Mhm.
And you know what? Like we're all big kids, and
Oh
we
yeah.
all have our hobbies and stuff like that. Like some of us are card games, some of us wait outside Walmarts to steal the boxes and stuff like that. If you do that, don't be that guy. Don't be that guy. But yeah, like you know what I mean? Like this is a lot of fun and a lot of people if you invest into something like I don't know, it just means all the world. It's just a good hobby. If you don't have one, go
Yeah.
get one.
Oh yeah, 100%, man. But yeah, I guess like look, I don't want to drag on too much when it comes to the decks. Obviously, we've spoken a bit about it. Just to like recap, obviously, like I'm really excited for different formats. I'm excited for potential buffs and nerfs that could come with it. Is there anything else I guess you wanted to touch on when it comes to like these before we kind of move on to anything else?
Well, the draft league implications. I
Mm,
think we don't have enough here for me to even speculate. Really, I have a wish list, but again, it's just what's going to be available at launch and how do we get Pokemon in the game and what's available from home. I think that all really determines how I'll feel about it. So I guess I'll just be waiting on the edge of my chair.
yeah, dude, that I'm not gonna lie, like part of me wants to stream that night, but at the same time, it's like I don't know if I'm gonna be able to. I'm gonna need a second to collect my thoughts. I'm gonna have to plan out in advance. What am I doing? Like, am I gonna do a video talking about the entire decks? Like, maybe that's it. Maybe I just do like a raw first 1 hour reaction going through the entire decks, like looking at all the abilities of the megas, and then I wake up and
Content
kind of collect
overload.
my thoughts. And yeah, dude, it's like as I said, dude, if it comes out at 1 a.m., I'm screwed. Like, I'm gonna be watching the trailer at 1
Yeah, I'm
a.m.
gonna
It's
say
gonna
that.
finish around 1:30. I'm gonna install it, and because it's Nintendo, it's gonna take a lot longer than it should. Maybe start at like 2 a.m. Yeah, I don't know. Look, at least it's on a Friday night. That's all I'm gonna say. At least it's a Friday night for us this year in Australia. I guess just to wrap this, or not to wrap it up, but the last topic here before we do wrap it up, I did just want to discuss the new games. Mainly Generation 10, but I actually did briefly want to touch on Pokopia as well. As because this was something I saw on Twitter the other day that Soul Silver brought up. And Soul Silver Art, I should say. And it did actually get me thinking. I'm sure you've seen Pokopia. You've seen that there are like 5 or 6 new Pokemon, right? We've got the what's the Pikachu
Skins.
called? It's like the oh, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, it's like the what is it like Peekaboo or something like that.
Did it have a new name, or was it just
Yes,
more of
yeah,
like a
yeah, yeah.
skin or something like that?
Give me a second. I'm gonna pull it up just while we're talking about it here, because again, this is something that like I'd never kind of thought about it until it was mentioned. Um, but like, there's a chance that like these are just gonna be regional variants, and they just yeah, okay, here it is, here it is. I got it. Hold on. Because I would not be surprised if they just one day said like these are just in the game. So like, you've got Professor Tangrowth. Like, I don't know about you, I'd love to use Professor Tangrowth in Pokemon. Like, I'll battle with him. You know, we got this one here, Pikachu, but you know, it's like obviously it's a ghost type, an electric ghost. We have
Yeah.
Mosslax, you know, like a pure grass Snorlax. Like, and this was the one I joked about. Could you imagine a Smeagol with better stats?
No, I can't.
Smear, dude,
Don't do it.
imagine you've got Smear Guru with like 500 BST. And look, maybe you take away Moody, but like Smear Guru coming in like decent base stats, like I think that could be kind of crazy, man.
Yeah, I'm hoping that this is just an isolated game. Kind of
I'm
like,
not.
you know,
What do
they've
you
got
mean?
like what's it called? The Pokemon Sleep, and you've got Pokemon Cafe Remix, and they've got like outfits and stuff like that. And I'm hoping it just kind of stays within this, because as cool as it would be to kind of have other variants and stuff, it's just another game people have to buy, right? Like
Well,
I
not
want to buy this
necessarily
because it's
though.
fun.
You got to remember
Mm,
recruitment. I can just buy my Pikachu for 1,000 VP and Gucci.
Yeah, I guess. Like I think I'm just looking at this game as it's just an Animal Crossing that's themed with Pokemon. Just
Yeah.
take my money. You know what I
Uh,
mean?
it 100% is. And then I guess finally as well, we'll just discuss Generation 10. Obviously, we know absolutely nothing about this game. If
Yeah.
you were someone who has watched the, well, not watched, I guess, but seen some of the leaks, like we maybe know a thing or two. But
Yeah, we
obviously
should probably give
this
somebody a couple seconds to click away if they don't want to be spoiled on any of these
Yeah,
leaks.
exactly. Yeah. Look, I'm not going to go too in depth on it. Obviously, it's for the most part, I don't want to say speculation, but some of it may or may not be true. But yeah,
Yeah.
no, it does look like that this year for the 30th anniversary, we will be getting the 10th generation of Pokemon.
Yep.
As far as I'm aware at the time of recording this, there is no like solid nothing about any new Pokemon or anything like that. We know kind of the names of potentially what the names of the games are. You know, the region it's kind of based in. You know, we kind of have a little idea of what the gimmick might be. Um, but yeah, outside of that, like there's not too much really to touch on when it comes to Generation 10. But obviously, when it comes to Pokemon Champions, one of the biggest things with a new generation is typically funneling new players into competitive Pokemon and obviously with Scarlet and Violet, we saw the biggest boom we've ever seen. I was like joking with one of my friends recently, and it was like, pre-COVID, it was like they would go to regionals here in Australia, and you would get like a 50 people at a regional. Now it's like our small regionals are like 220. It's like if you go to an event and it's like 200 players, that's considered small. And obviously Australia is not a big country, but like we've just seen the Orlando regionals recently all eclipsing 1,000 players, right? Like I think back to
Yeah.
back years they eclipsed 1,000 players. I think EUIC recently had 1,000 players, and it's one of those things where it's like we're having just constantly record breaking seasons, and Pokemon Champions plus a new generation that hopefully fingers
Yeah.
crossed has got more money invested. It looks like it looks like they've understood, hey, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet was probably a bit underwhelming. We're putting more time, more money into it, and again, a more polished game, potentially more people buy it, more people buy it, more people get funneled into champions, and then you've just got this cycle of potentially just more people coming into competitive Pokemon, another big boom for the game. And honestly, it's really exciting. And again, that's not even touching on like, hey, it's going to be a new dex, potentially like 100 new Pokemon, stuff like that.
Yeah, and a new tiger to deal with all those snakes that have been running around, right?
Oh,
So
yeah, 100%, dude.
I don't doubt it.
I can't wait
They're
until
going
they're
to be
like,
releasing. Hmm?
I was gonna say they have to throw another good ground type at us. They're like, damn. It turns out Precipice Blades isn't the answer to all the restricteds. We need something that has like 100% accurate Precipice Blades.
Yeah, it's going to be 100 power spread priority ground move to deal with all this crap, and it'll be
Mm-hmm.
physical, and the Pokemon will be immune to intimidate and fake out, and it's like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you're right though, man. Like this game has been growing exponentially, right? With the combination of the chaos from um what is it, the card game, and like like I don't know how they did it, man. They must have been taking advice from like the US military of just how to get people hooked on like some idea, man. Like it's now part of culture. Like you go buy cards as an investment,
Mm-hmm.
right? And people are lining up to buy Pokemon cards. So the brand Pokemon is just in your face everywhere. And they've made games like sleeping. Hey, you get Pokemon and you get rewarded for sleeping well. You get to feed them and stuff like that. You got your cafe remix. I remember like what's that game that everybody used to play on Candy Crush, right? So
Mm-hmm.
Cafe Remix is the Candy Crush. Now you have they made a MOBA, so they're trying to get access and put their brand out there to literally
Well,
everyone on the earth, which is
and
why I
that's
think
the
it's
thing,
growing
yeah.
so fast.
And not to, and again, like I don't want to keep harping on this, man, but it's like this is why I think, and also my dog is barking, so I will have to wrap this up shortly. But it's why I think just being on mobile is going to be so big for this game, man. Like you talk about it, like you're
Yeah.
correct, yeah. Like this ecosystem that Pokemon has obviously been building over the last 10 years, it's really huge. Also,
Yeah, it's insane. And they've done such a good job. Whoever's been their marketing guy,
you
um,
keep talking.
yeah, I'll keep everybody entertained. Hey, puppy. No, it's they've
So
done such a good job. However they've done it, it's been fantastic,
hey,
and they're
princess.
just getting again. We started the let's call it podcast or whatever. We started this episode with get the product in the consumer's hand, and they've literally done that across the board, right? And now it's culturally Pokemon is now into everyone's culture now, and it exists. So even parents, instead of everything being called Pikachu, now, oh, I know that one. That one's like Fluttermane or something, right? Or Flutter
Mm-hmm.
something, Flutter Gains, or something. But yeah, and Gen 10, I would expect it to grow even more. So like and like you mentioned before, your theory is that it's moving slowly towards an esport.
Well, yeah. So, and again, that's something else I can probably touch on. I do apologize. We have a guest to finish the episode. I was hoping she'd come on camera, but she's just chilling on the couch. But yeah, I really do think again there. It looks like they're potentially going to push it for an esport. Obviously, this is just a little theory of mine, and again, this is probably another a topic for another video. But yeah, it's just it really feels like really ever since probably Pokemon Go, they're just slowly building this ecosystem, slowly getting
Yep.
people into different forms of Pokemon and again, we look at how much VGC grew in the last, 12, well, not 12 months, but really the last 3 years. And I do feel like we're about to hit that critical peak where it's like VGC is the biggest it's ever been. We're about to be given this game that is going to hopefully be the home. And again, we've kind of given that spoiler warning, but if you saw the Terra Leagues, they've in their like roadmap, they are planning to support this game at least and through till the end of Generation 11. We don't know past that, but that's just because that's where the roadmap ended. It was like,
Yeah.
Generation 11, 3 years, which is like 7 years from now or 6 years from now. Pokemon Champions is supposed to be supported all the way until then. So it's like we already know that they have plans to support this game for potentially at least 6 to 7 years minimum. Obviously, assuming things go well, but it's just you have this thing where again you've got all these people who are now playing Pokemon on their mobile phones. You have this new game coming out, and then all of a sudden you have this new game which is Generation 10, which is potentially gonna be the biggest game ever. And again, this is like again a topic for another day, but I really think Pokemon Day this year is going to be massive. I know a lot of people maybe aren't as passionate about this stuff as me, but I look into this stuff. The last time we had, well, when we had the 20th generation, right, which is, sorry, the 20th year anniversary, which is Generation 7, that was when we were getting news every week. Like, I don't know if people remember the hype cycle for Gen 7, but it was like we were getting like weekly information to like celebrate the 20th year anniversary. And back then we only had Sun and Moon. Now we have Champions, we have all these mobile games, we have Unite, we have Generation 10, like I,
Legends.
Legends, like I think there is a world where like we are going to get something new on a weekly basis from Pokemon for this year, and I think that's really exciting. And again, like I just think that the 10th generation, fingers crossed, is going to be the best game they've ever made. It's going to pull in just so many more players, and then as you said, everything's just going to funnel into Champions and competitive Pokemon. Hopefully, in the next 12 to 24 months, it's just going to absolutely explode.
Well, two things with that is any information at this point is better than they've been doing because we've been left
Hmm.
in the dark quite a bit, right? So forget every week. I'll take every month or every 3 months. Like
True, yeah.
we have nothing.
A
We're
monthly
making
direct.
videos speculating.
Yeah.
Well, and Yeah, it'd be nice, and also like the budget too. Like I won't touch on it too much. I just hope
Oh,
that Gen 10 they have more than
ridiculous,
$20 million budget.
ridiculous.
Like, come
I
on. Like we
like
don't want to be a buzzkill, but let's spend some money, guys.
Yeah,
And
and
that's
again,
one thing to say
we
on
look,
that.
we won't get into it here, but like you and I did the math last time we discussed this, and it's like a $20 million budget for a game that probably made at a bare minimum a few $100 million. Like invest $100 million into your game, you're still gonna come out way ahead. And at the same time, like the games aren't even where they make their money. Like they make their money from the merchandise. So it's like the more people you can get into the ecosystem, the more money you're gonna make. If you can get new people into Pokemon, buying your cards, buying your plushies, it's just there's so much more money to be made. I think if they just put a little bit more into their games, but I mean, yeah, Gen 10. Hopefully, at the end of the year, we're gonna see some pretty special things.
Right, so I think a good way to end it too, and it does seem like we're kind of right there anyways. Optimism is probably the theme of this entire
Oh
conversation
yeah,
and the entire community right now. Everyone is very optimistic where the game is headed, what Champions is going to be. Gen 10, they're looking forward to it. The haters with Scarlet and Violet, I'll say it right now, it's the best game they've ever made. They've given us a lot of the wish list stuff that we wanted. Terra was a great mechanic.
easily the best competitive one.
So yeah, so there's only going up from here, right? So let's hope to see it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm with you. Obviously, this has been fantastic. I don't know exactly how long this recording is, as I don't have it up. But yeah, obviously, thank you for coming on. I had a lot of fun talking about this, and yeah, the next couple of weeks are gonna be pretty exciting, dude. I really hope that 4 weeks from now we can sit down and make another one of these and be like, hey, here is everything we know about Pokemon Champions.
Yep. And this is what we've experienced, and this is what we hoped for, and this is what we got, and this is what we didn't, and that'd be fun.
Exactly, exactly. Well, I guess before we wrap it up, Jay, do you want to let everyone know where they can find you?
Yeah, I don't. I've been trying to do a little bit more Twitter stuff, but basically the YouTube channel. If you guys like Draft, or if you haven't tried Draft, come check it out. Like, it's not even just my channel. I just encourage people like make friends, join a Discord, and I do have a Discord server myself that I kind of get people connected into leagues and stuff. So if you ever want to try it, me and Scott both love it. And it's just my channel is themed on that. So I do play VGC a lot. I like making fun teams, but for the most part, I'm just here to have a good conversation with my friend here. So, but yeah, if you want to check out my channel, I'm sure I'll have it somewhere in the description or
Yeah,
something. And
I'll link it down below for sure.
yeah, but again, that wasn't the goal here. It's more so just to kind of have a fun conversation. But yeah,
Yeah, no, look, I had a lot of fun. Again, like I can't wait. I could talk for hours and hours upon this, but it is 1 a.m. here in Australia, so we do have to wrap it up, unfortunately. But yeah, massive shout out, Jay. Thank you for coming on. And if you guys made it to the end of the video, obviously, yeah, thank you for making it all the way to the end. Obviously, let us know what you are most excited for when it comes to Pokemon Champions. I'm sure anyone watching this is probably a competitive fan, much as we are, and I'm sure we're all just kind of at this point just eager to finally get something.